Hey there, folks. Parker Thune, Jesse Crittenden here with another installment of Quick Slants for you. Oklahoma has hit the bye. Well, the first bye of the 2024 season. It comes at a phenomenal time for this football team. They are banged up. They just came off an emotional win against Auburn on the road this past Saturday, and they're gearing up for what will be a highly consequential matchup with Tennessee at the Cotton Bowl. That always feels like the game that dictates the course of Oklahoma's season as a whole. We're going to find out a lot about those Sooners when they take the field against Texas in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl on October 12th. But for the moment, Jesse, this is for all intents and purposes the midseason mark for Oklahoma. We're 5 games in, 7 to go. The bye week hits. Oklahoma gets a chance to take a breath. So too do we. Mid-season report cards for each of the 3 units for Oklahoma: offense, defense, special teams. Let's start with the offense. If you had to put a letter grade on it, what letter grade are you giving the offense so far?
Honestly, and it's gonna sound rough, considering it's the University of Oklahoma and given the offensive pedigree we've seen really over the last 10 years. Parker, to me, I think it's hard to give this offense a grade above a D, to be honest with you, through 5 weeks. I mean, when you look at the stats, I mean, this is an offense that's averaging, I mean, basically every stat they're 100th or worst nationally, and basically every stat they haven't done anything particularly well. I mean, this is a rushing offense that ranks 115th. This is an offense as a whole that is averaging 4.5 yards per carry. That's 120th in the nationally. Parker, and I just especially when you look at the passing numbers, this is an offense that's averaging under 10 yards per completion. And then when you put it in the context of obviously Jackson Arnold struggling through the first 4 weeks, when you look at it with how much offense, I think we both the ways we expect this offense to change with Michael Hawkins as the season goes along. So basically trying to make it as nice as possible. I almost think maybe a more accurate grade is to say it's an incomplete, because I think the offense that we saw over the first 4 weeks is not the offense we're going to see over the rest of the year. Plus, when you factor in the injuries especially at wide receiver, I think it's hard to evaluate. But if you're just looking at stats, it's been one of the worst offenses statistically. I think it's harder to give it a higher grade than a D.
Well, amen to all of what you said. I am going to go a little bit higher. I'm going to say it's a C- for Oklahoma. And that's only because I think you get the impression, if based solely on the last 6 quarters of football, that things are going to get better with Michael Hawkins at quarterback. He adds a dimension that just wasn't there with Jackson Arnold. The decision making has been a vast improvement over Jackson Arnold. And so I think you have the guy that needs to be playing quarterback now in order for the Sooners to achieve their goals, which are all still out there in front of them in the 2024 season. So, yes, I acknowledge it was very, very rocky through the first 4 weeks. If not for the anointing of Michael Hawkins, if you will, and the reality that he's now going to be replacing Jackson Arnold in the long term. Forget the short term. In the long term, he is your new starting quarterback. He's the guy that this team is riding with, for better or worse, for the remainder of the 2024 season, come hell or high water. When you make a decision like that, that's what you're saying is, hey, we got to put all our faith in 9. We're going to ride it out. And that's what this team is content with doing. And thus far, he has rewarded the confidence from Seth Luttrell and Brent Venables and the Oklahoma staff. He's done some really good things, put some really good things on tape through 6 quarters as QB1. So I trust that things are going to improve. Things are going to get better. And for that reason, although it is probably a D minus body of work so far, I'll give it a C- because I think things are on the upward trajectory. How about the defense, Jesse? It's been strong, much stronger on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, honestly, I think overall I would give it a B plus. This defense so far, and I think indicating that it hasn't been perfect, but for the most part, it's been really good when you look at the things this defense has put on tape. I mean, Parker, this has been one of the best rushing defenses in the country.
Yep.
They're 30th in total yards on the ground per game. But even that number, which is good, is a little misleading because they've defended more rushing attempts than almost any team in the country. They're defending 40 rushing attempts a game, and then when you factor in that they're top 10 in yards per carry, and already what they've done against Tennessee, one of the best rushing offenses in the country, and Auburn, That run defense has been really strong. They're top 10 in sacks. They're top 10 in tackles for loss. They're top 10 according to Pro Football Focus in pass rush. The only thing they haven't really been that great at so far is defending against the pass. They've been a little vulnerable at giving up some explosive plays through the air, but they've been able to counteract that with some turnovers. I mean, they're tied for third in the country in takeaways. A lot of those have been interceptions. Obviously, the maybe OU probably doesn't win that Auburn game without the pick six, the Kip six from Kip Lewis. So even though they've given up some plays through the air, they've been able to kind of balance that out for the most part. And then when you factor it in with how much this defense has been on the field, they've been on the field way more than the offense has been in terms of time of possession. I think B plus is really good because they've already been really good, and I think there's areas where they can still realistically improve and get better. So efficiency, it's been there. Playmaking, it's been there. I think they've taken that bend but don't break philosophy to a new level. They've done a pretty good job of not breaking and even really not bending that much. This defense has been the strength of the team, and Parker, I've said it a couple times now. This defense isn't rebuilding; it's rebuilt. The rebuilding process is over. This defense is ready to win big games. They were good enough to beat Tennessee. They were the main reason why OU beat Auburn on Saturday. I think B plus with even a bigger room to improve is the way I'm going.
Yeah, look, I'm right there with you. I also give him a B plus, and you could talk me into an A minus if you yammered at me for long enough about the good things that this defense has done, and there has been a lot of good. By the way, all of the statistics that Jesse rattled off, that's the type of stuff, folks, that attention to detail that makes him a great beat writer. Go read some of his stuff at ouinsider.com if you haven't already. But the one thing that needs to get sorted out is cornerback, because that group is a bit unstable for Oklahoma. If they have an Achilles heel defensively, it's quite obviously the cornerback group. That said, the back end of the secondary has played really well. Billy Bowman has been Billy Bowman. Robert Spears Jennings has enjoyed such an emergence, man. He's playing as well as anybody in the entire SEC right now, if we're talking safeties. And so his emergence has been fantastic to see, because I think many imagined that you could count on Billy Bowman, you could count on Peyton Bowen. The big question going into the season was, could you count on Robert Spears Jennings? The answer to that question, from what we've seen thus far, is a resounding yes. You've got so many really athletic, high caliber linebackers, not just Danny Stutzman and Kip Lewis, but Samuel Masigo has had some awesome moments. So has Kobe McKenzie. So has Lewis Carter in very, very limited snaps. And the front, man, the front has been awesome. They've been good at getting after the quarterback. They've been good at stopping the run. With how much they've been on the field, they've done tremendous work. So agree, B plus, if not an A minus. One unit that I will certainly give an A minus to is special teams. Luke Elzinga looks like an All-American, man. He is punting the ball as well as anybody in the nation. Tyler Keltner has missed one field goal and one extra point. Billy Bowman has muffed a punt. Peyton Bowen has muffed a punt. Neither of those muffs resulted in turnovers. And shout out to Zach Schmidt, who came in Keltner's stead in a hostile road environment against Auburn, kicked two crucial field goals that ultimately proved to be the difference in that football game. So special teams, boy, it is, and it has been rough for Oklahoma the last couple of years in that department. It's been really, really solid and really reliable through 3 games.
No, it really is.
Five
I
games,
think
excuse me.
Yeah, no, I think A minus is the right grade here. And Parker, I'm looking at some different written things to do for OU Insider during the bye week, looking at different midseason marks. I honestly think there's an argument that Luke Elzinga has been this team's best player through 5 weeks, and that's less of a quote unquote shade at either unit, offense or defense, and more about how good he has been. I mean, he's averaging 46 yards per punt. Of his 29 punts, I believe 13 of them have gone inside the 20. He's had 11 punts of 50 yards or more. And straight up, look no further than that Auburn game on Saturday. His ability to flip the field is a big reason why this defense has been is a big reason why they've been successful. It's a big reason why they've been able to be really good at some of the things they've been good at. Is opposing offenses have been starting with not great field position most of the time. Then look at field goal kicking between Zach Schmidt and Tyler Keltner. They're 8 of 9 on field goals. That's you'll take that every time, given how much Zach Schmidt struggled the 2 years before this one. There, that only miss came from 44 yards. The rest of the kicks, they're 3 of 3 between 20 to 29 yards. They're 3 of 3 between 30 to 39 yards. More than anything, the kicking has just been efficient. And then Parker, the punt returns with Peyton Bowen. I mean, he's averaging 9 on the year. He's his longest 24. And Parker, I just guarantee it right now, he's going to break at least one off the rest of the way. He's every time he gets it, you can sense a little bit of excitement. I think you feel like something big is going to happen. It just hasn't quite yet. Outside of a couple of struggles where the punt returners kept on falling down, catching some of those balls the first couple of weeks of the year, they've largely fixed that. I think Peyton Bowen has already proven that he can be a dangerous punt returner. So it hasn't all been perfect, but I think A minus is the right grade. And I think as far as consistency, I think it's special teams that has all three sides of the ball beat in that regard.
Three guys you need to see more of moving forward, Jesse, and I'll tell you who my three are. It's very easy right off the top of my head to rattle off this list. I want to see Eli Bowen start against Texas. I feel like I need to see Eli Bowen start because he is the one guy that has proven that he can hold his own out there at cornerback. Woody Washington has had his struggles. Des Malone has had his struggles. Kenai Walker has certainly had his struggles. Eli Bowen has been ready and he's been tenacious at every turn when his number has been called. Really, really like the things that he's done. If he's not already the best cornerback on this roster, man, he is not more than a step behind whoever CB1 is right now. And that's obviously with the caveat that Gentry Williams is unavailable and will be unavailable for the foreseeable future. A healthy Gentry Williams is no doubt Oklahoma's top cornerback, but I want to see more Eli Bowen. I want to see more Sammy Omosigho at the linebacker position. Man, and I know that there is perhaps some more faith in Woody Washington to play that cheetah spot right now than there is Omosigho. But man, I feel like especially against a team like Texas, where you just got to have your best athletes out there on the field, putting them in position to make plays and win you a football game. Sammy Omosigho offers you something that nobody else does at Cheetah, which is the physique of a linebacker and the athleticism of a defensive back. If a guy like Michael Boganowski were ready to play that Cheetah spot, then I say, okay, maybe that makes the most sense. But Omosigho, to me, there's nobody seriously in contention for snaps at that Cheetah spot that is as exciting to me based on what they've done through 5 games than Omosigho. Man, when he's been on the field, he's made an impact. You've seen it. You felt it. He had a tackle for loss that set up that pick 6 from Kip Lewis. And that's a play that got overlooked in the grand scheme on Saturday. But if he doesn't bring Jarquez Hunter down for a loss there, Auburn probably gets a new set of downs on that play. It's 2nd and 1, and they're moving the chains, and everything resets. The third guy that I want to see more of, Taylor Tatum. To me, with this offensive line being in the state that it's in, by no means am I dismissing Javante Barnes and Gavin Sawchuk. By no means am I saying move away from those guys entirely, bury him. That experiment's over. I do think what is true of Taylor Tatum is that he offers something those two don't right now, and that is the ability to create something out of nothing. And sometimes there's just nothing there with how this offensive line is locking up the run schemes. And I do think Seth Luttrell should and will get more creative with the run schemes, make an effort to get the backs outside the tackles more so than they have to this point in the season. But when there is nothing there, Taylor Tatum has proven, in as limited a sample size as it may be to this point, that he can just burrow down and move the ball forward. And he's not going to get cut down for a 2-3 yard loss, get you behind the chains. To me, that's a very valuable thing. He's got juice. He's got big play capability, but it's about the consistency for me. The consistency with which he is churning for forward progress. And that is a very valuable thing and will be a very valuable thing going up against an opponent like Texas, where you get behind the chains, Jesse, you're going to put yourself in some really, really tough situations.
Yeah, and look, for one, you picked 2 of my guys in Taylor Tatum and Eli Bowen, because I desperately need to see more from them. And just to add to the Taylor Tatum point, Parker, I mean, he's in terms of yards per carry, he's way above both Barnes and Sawchuk. He's averaging over 6 yards a carry, albeit in limited attempts. He's only ran the ball 18 times. To me, Parker, that the biggest thing that stands out with Taylor Tatum is his yards after contact, 3.6 yards after contact, according to Pro Football Focus. That is significantly higher than both Barnes and Sawchuk. And given how much this offensive line has had its issues, you kind of need some guys that can turn stuff out of nothing, exactly as you said. I think Taylor Tatum has showed that. And then also, he's clearly his work in the passing game is there. He leads all running backs in touchdowns. We need to see more Taylor Tatum. Just to add a couple of guys to the list, one of them, and this has actually been surprising. This is not what I would have guessed through the first 5 weeks. Do you know how many snaps PJ Adebawara has played through 5 games? Do you have a guess?
It can't be more than 20, 25.
So 47.
Oh, wow.
But
Okay, that's more than I thought.
He's barely played the last 2 weeks. He's barely played. And I think part of it is I think he's still trying to put some stuff together. I mean, clearly the pure athleticism, the length and the size is there. I think there's still some fundamental things that he can get better at, especially in the running game. But 47 snaps to me with his upside, I think is too few. I think they're going to need him more in the back half of the season. And the defensive ends as a whole, I mean, R. Mason Thomas has been one of the best defenders in the SEC point blank through the first 5 games. When you look at some of the other guys, I mean, Ethan Downs has been fine. Caden Willard has been fine. They've made some plays. I think OU is going to, as you alluded to earlier, sometimes just have your best athletes on the field. I mean, PJ DeBauer is one of the best athletes in the SEC, not just on this team. I think they're going to need him to play more snaps than just a little over 8 a game, which is what he's playing right now. So I'm going to throw him out there. And then one other guy, which might seem like an odd pick, but Parker, I need to see more Kip Lewis, who is in the midst of his breakout season. OU doesn't win that game against Auburn without his play, and it wasn't just the pick. It was his ability. It was what that play was really impressive that he made. If you go back and watch the film, it was the way he read the quarterback. It was the way he was able to step back, see that pass over the middle. And if he's not there, that receiver's open. Robert Spears Jennings even said it after the game. If that pass gets completed, it's probably a touchdown. And when you look at his numbers, he's played 168 snaps through 5 games. That's the 10th most on the defense. He's playing a solid amount. I think they're going to need more from him. And part of that is how good he's been. He's basically been good in every area of the field. He's actually OU's second best graded defender in coverage, which is pretty crazy to think about. But Danny Studsman didn't look fully right to me, Parker, against Auburn. I think it was clear he's not fully healthy. And the rest of that linebacker room, I mean, Kobe McKenzie has had some good things, but Deshaun McCullough still hasn't played. Jaron Canick's not going to be a factor. And I think if Danny Stutzman is dealing with an injury, and especially as OU continues to play these high-ranked opponents, again, this goes back to I think you need your best playmakers on the field. And through 5 weeks, I think Kip Lewis has been one of the 3 best defenders for this team. And I think they're going to need him to start playing upwards of 40, 50, maybe even 60 snaps a game. I think that's how impactful he's been. Right now, he's hovering around 30 snaps a game. I need that to be closer to 50 moving forward. I think he's been that good. Brent Venables has bragged about him a ton. So he's not a guy that hasn't played any, but I think he's a guy that's played a decent amount that I think needs to play more.
The bye week slows everything down, but we're going to keep the content coming for you folks here on this channel, as well as at ouinsider.com. Check us out. Subscribe there if you haven't already. Hit subscribe on this channel. It doesn't cost you anything. You're not going to get added to a mailing list or any of that. It just helps us out. And so if you click that subscribe button, we'd very much appreciate it. We'll be back next week with another installment of Quick Slants. Stay tuned throughout the week for more from us at OU Insider. Take care, everybody.